You know, if we pause for a moment and really think about it, our entire life in this world is just a blink. It feels long when we're in it. The school years feel endless. Waiting for a job feels like forever. The struggles of daily life drag on. But if you speak to someone in their 70s or 80s, they'll tell you it went by so quickly. They'll remember moments from their childhood as if it was yesterday. That should tell us something. Time is not just moving. It's slipping through our fingers faster than we realize. Allah reminds us in the Quran, the life of this world is nothing but play and amusement, but the hereafter is better for those who fear Allah. Will you not then understand, when we really internalize that, it changes the way we measure success? Right now, most people measure life by achievements in the Dunya, education, career, wealth, recognition. But the Quran is constantly recalibrating that scale for us. It's saying, don't be fooled by the shine, the glitter. Because the shine fades, think about this: everything you're attached to in this world, either it will leave you or you will leave it. That car you love, one day someone else will drive it. That house you worked so hard to buy, one day someone else will live in it. Even the people you love most, either they will bury you or you will bury them. That's the reality of this world. It's not meant to last. And yet, most of our mental energy, our stress, our planning is invested in something we know will not remain. It's not that Islam is telling you to abandon the dunya completely, no. The Prophet worked, traded, married, and lived among people. But he treated the dunya like a bridge. You cross it. You don't build your home on it. He once held Abdullah ibn Umar by the shoulder and said, be in this world as though you were a stranger or a traveler. Think about a traveler. They keep their luggage light. They don't decorate the hotel room as if they'll live there forever. They don't fight over small inconveniences on the road because they know, I'm going home soon. Psychologically, when you really understand that this life is temporary, something shifts inside you. Your anxiety about certain things reduces. You start picking your battles differently. If someone insults you, you think, you know what, this life is too short to waste on revenge. If you're tested with loss, you remind yourself, this was never mine to begin with. That's a different way of living. The dunya plays a trick on us. It keeps telling us, just a little more and you'll be satisfied. A little more money, a little more recognition, a little more comfort. But the satisfaction never arrives, because our souls are not wired to be fulfilled by temporary things. That's why, no matter how much you achieve, you still feel a hunger for more, unless that hunger is directed toward the Akhirah. So, every day ask yourself, what am I building more, my temporary home or my eternal home? If we answer honestly, many of us will realize we're spending hours polishing the walls of a tent, while the palace waiting for us in the hereafter is being neglected. Remember, this life is like a drop compared to an ocean. Don't spend your entire existence chasing the drop and forgetting the ocean. If we agree that this world is temporary, then the next question is what comes after. Because if something ends, there must be something beyond it, and that's where the reality of the Akhirah becomes central. The hereafter is not just an abstract idea. It is the continuation of our existence, only without the limitations of time and decay. Allah describes it over and over in the Quran, abadan, forever. That's a concept our minds can't even fully process, because in this world, everything has an expiry date. But in the Akhirah, there is no end. If we live 70, 80, even 90 years here, it might seem long to us. But compare that to an existence without end, not millions of years, not billions, but forever. That's where the true home is. And when you realize that, suddenly your priorities begin to shift. Why would anyone spend the majority of their effort on a life that's like a weekend trip and neglect the life that is eternal? It's not logical. But our emotions, our distractions, they make us forget. The Quran tells us, and indeed, the hereafter is better for you than the present life, better in every way, better in comfort, better in safety, better in satisfaction. In this world, even when you're happy, it's mixed with fear of loss. Even when you succeed, it's mixed with the pressure to keep succeeding. In the Akhirah, for the believer, there's no fear, no grief, no anxiety. Imagine a place where you never get tired, never get sick, never lose anyone you love, and never feel the emptiness that so often creeps into our hearts in this world. That is Jannah, but the Akhirah is not just paradise. It is also accountability. It's where ultimate justice happens, because here you will see people get away with oppression. You will see lies winning over truth for a time. You will see the innocent suffering while the guilty live in luxury. If this world was all there was, that would be a cruel joke, but the Akhirah is where every deed is brought forth, and not a single atom's weight of injustice is overlooked. For some, that will be relief beyond words. For others, it will be a reality they spent their entire life denying. Philosophically, this is essential. Without belief in the hereafter, morality becomes fragile. If there's no ultimate accountability, then what's stopping someone from cheating, lying, or harming, if they can avoid the consequences here? But when you believe in the Akhirah, you live with a constant awareness that even if the entire world doesn't see what you've done, Allah sees it and you will face it again. Now, I know some people hear all this and say, but it feels far away. That's the trap. The hereafter is not far. It begins the moment your eyes close for the last time. The veil between this world and the next is just one breath, and no one knows when that breath will come. So to delay preparation because it feels distant is one of Shaitan's most successful deceptions. So what does this mean for us? It means that our investment strategy in life must change. You can still work hard here, still earn, still enjoy what Allah has made permissible, but your heart and your long-term focus must be fixed on the Akhirah. Every prayer, every charity, every moment of patience, every time you turn away from sin, you're not losing out. You're transferring assets into an account that never crashes, never devalues, and never closes. Because at the end of the day, there will come a moment when we step out of this world forever. And in that moment, the only thing that will matter is not how we lived for this world, but how we lived for the next. And if you think about it, isn't it strange that we prepare so carefully for a trip of a few days, yet so carelessly for a journey that never ends? Once we acknowledge that the Akhirah is the real home, it's natural to ask, if that's so clear, why do so many of us still live as though this world is all that matters? The truth is, it's not always because we consciously reject the hereafter. It's because the Dunya is constantly pulling on us. The attachments here, wealth, career, relationships, recognition, comfort, they have a magnetic pull on the human heart. And if we're not careful, that pull can slowly redirect our lives away from what really matters. You see, Dunya is not evil by itself. The problem is when Dunya becomes the asterisk purpose asterisk, rather than the asterisk tool asterisk. When your job becomes your identity, when your bank account becomes your security, when your social status becomes your sense of worth, that's when you've let the temporary replace the eternal. And it happens so subtly. You don't wake up one morning and say, today I'm going to neglect my Akhirah. No, it happens when one missed prayer turns into two, when a little dishonesty just to get ahead becomes a habit, when one weekend of forgetting Allah turns into months of spiritual dryness. The Prophet warned us about this. He said, asterisk, by Allah, it is not poverty I fear for you, but I fear that the world will be opened up to you just as it was opened to those before you, and you will compete for it as they competed for it, and it will destroy you as it destroyed them. Asterisk, notice, he didn't say poverty will destroy you. It's asterisk abundance asterisk that's the danger, because it makes us feel self-sufficient. And when we feel self-sufficient, we start to forget the one who truly provides. Psychologically, the danger of worldly attachment is that it changes your value system without you even realizing it. You begin to measure yourself and others by standards that have nothing to do with Allah's pleasure. Someone with more money, more followers, more influence suddenly seems more successful in your eyes, even if they're bankrupt in the sight of Allah. That's how Dunya clouds your vision. The Quran uses a powerful image for this. Allah says, asterisk, the life of this world is but the enjoyment of delusion. Asterisk, think about that word, delusion. A delusion is when your perception doesn't match reality. You think you're secure because of your wealth, but in reality, one accident, one diagnosis, one sudden market crash can strip it away overnight. You think you're admired by people, but in reality, their opinions change faster than the wind. Everything here is fragile, and yet we cling to it as if it's permanent. That's why the scholars used to say, keep Dunya in your hand, not in your heart. When it's in your hand, you can let go when Allah asks you to. When it's in your heart, it will drag you wherever it wants, even away from Jannah. So how do we break that hold? We start by remembering that whatever Allah gives us here is a trust. It's not ours, it's on loan. Use your wealth, your skills, your influence, your time, but use them in a way that adds weight to your scale in the Akhirah. If you spend it only to decorate your life here, you're investing in a house that will be demolished the day you die. And here's something to reflect on: every single thing you own right now will one day belong to someone else. The only part of it you truly keep is the part you spent for the sake of Allah. So don't get so busy polishing the temporary that you neglect building the eternal. Because the Dunya will not stop trying to claim your heart. You have to choose every day to keep your eyes on the destination, not the roadside attractions. Once we understand the pull of the Dunya and how it can so easily take over our hearts, the obvious question becomes, if this world is temporary, if the Akhirah is permanent, and if distractions are everywhere, then why are we here at all? The answer is not hidden, it's written clearly in the Quran. Allah says, asterisk, I have not created jinn and mankind except to worship me, asterisk, that's the foundation. Our very existence has a purpose, not random, not accidental, and that purpose is to recognize, love, obey, and serve the one who created us. Now, when we hear worship, our minds often jump to prayer, fasting, reading Quran. And yes, those are core acts of worship, but in Islam, worship is much broader. It's any act that's done sincerely for Allah's sake, in the way that He loves. That means your work, your studies, your family time, even your rest can become acts of worship if your intention is aligned. That's the beauty of our faith. Every moment is an opportunity to invest in the Akhirah, not just the hours in the masjid. Philosophically, this is liberating, because it means life isn't split into religious time and real life. All of life is religious if you live it with the right heart. It's not about escaping the Dunya, it's about navigating it in a way that keeps you anchored to Allah. The Dunya becomes your training ground, your workplace for the Akhirah. The Prophet lived this balance perfectly. He prayed at night until his feet swelled, but he also smiled with his companions, played with children, and handled the affairs of the community. His life was proof that you can engage with the world fully while keeping the hereafter as your compass. And that's exactly what we're called to do. But there's a psychological challenge here. When we lose sight of our purpose, life becomes confusing. You can have everything the Dunya offers: wealth, status, entertainment, and still feel restless, empty, unfulfilled. Why? Because the soul was not designed to be satisfied by these things. The soul is like a key. It only fits one lock connection to Allah. Anything else will feel forced, temporary, incomplete. And here's the test. Fulfilling our purpose isn't just about moments of devotion. It's about choices in difficulty. Worship is also saying no to temptation when no one else would know. It's keeping calm in an argument when you could win with anger. It's giving from what you love even when your heart clings to it. These are the moments that polish the soul for the Akhirah. So practically, how do we keep our purpose alive? First, constant remembrance of Allah *D*. It keeps the heart awake. Second, intentional living, asking yourself before you act, how will this weigh on my scale in the hereafter? And third, surrounding yourself with people who remind you of Allah, because no matter how strong you think you are, the company you keep will either lift you toward the Akhirah or pull you into the Dunya. When you start viewing life through the lens of worship, even your struggles transform. Hardship becomes a means of forgiveness. Patience becomes a form of reward. Success becomes a chance for gratitude. You're no longer just surviving the Dunya, you're using it to secure your place in the Akhirah. Because at the end of the day, every breath we take is part of the exam paper we'll hand in on the day of judgment. And when that day comes, may we be of those who can say, with peace in our hearts, I lived for the reason I was created. Once we recognize why we're here, to worship Allah and prepare for the Akhirah, we have to remember something that many of us try to push to the back of our minds. Every single thing we do is being recorded, and one day we will stand before Allah to answer for it. Not just the major events of life, but the words we spoke without thinking, the intentions we carried in our hearts, the choices we made when no one else was watching. Allah tells us in the Quran, *, So whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it. Asterisk that means nothing is too small to matter. We might forget the smile we gave to someone in need, the dua we whispered for a stranger, the small coin we dropped into charity, but Allah does not forget. And likewise, we might forget the little moments of arrogance, the small lies, the cutting words, but they are all preserved until the day of judgment. Psychologically, if you truly internalize this, it changes how you live. Imagine living every day knowing that a perfect, eternal record is being kept not as a threat, but as a reality check. You wouldn't waste time trying to impress people if you knew that the only opinion that truly matters is Allah's. You wouldn't cut corners in your obligations if you knew that the smallest act of negligence could be exposed on a day when there's no hiding. And this is not about living in fear all the time, it's about living in awareness. The Prophet described the believer as someone who balances hope and fear. Hope in Allah's mercy, fear of His accountability. Too much fear without hope leads to despair. Too much hope without fear leads to complacency. But when they're balanced, you become motivated to do your best while still relying on Allah's forgiveness when you fall short. On the day of judgment, the Quran tells us, the scales will be set up. For some, the scales of good deeds will be heavy, and they will be given their record in their right hand, with faces shining with joy. For others, the scales will be light, and they will be given their record in their left hand, filled with regret. And at that moment, all the distractions of Dunya will vanish from memory. The only question will be, what have I sent forward for this day? One of the most sobering things is that the judgment will be completely just. There will be no favoritism, no bribes, no appeals. The wealthy and the poor, the powerful and the weak, the famous and the unknown, all will stand on the same plane before Allah, barefoot, uncircumcised, and alone. Even prophets will be saying, myself, myself, except for our beloved Prophet Muhammad, who will be pleading, my Ummah, my Ummah. That's the reality of that day, and yet Allah's mercy is vast. A single sincere repentance can wipe away years of sin. A single act done purely for His sake can outweigh mountains of mistakes. That's why we can't afford to delay turning back to Him, because we don't know when the book of our life will be closed. If there's one thing to take away from this, it's that your life is your preparation time. Right now, we are writing our own records with every choice we make. One day soon, those records will be read back to us, word for word, and on that day, we will either wish we had done more, or be grateful we prepared well. So live in such a way that when you meet Allah, you meet Him with a record you are proud to present. If we know the day of judgment is coming, and we know we will be held to account for every moment, then the most important question becomes, how do we actually live in a way that keeps the Akhirah at the center? Because it's easy to talk about it when we're in a gathering like this, but what about when you're in traffic, or stressed at work, or scrolling through your phone late at night? That's when the reminders fade, and the pull of Dunya takes over again. So we need practical steps to anchor ourselves. One of the most powerful steps is to remember death often, not in a morbid way, but in a way that keeps life in perspective. The Prophet said, asterisk, frequently remember the destroyer of pleasures, asterisk, meaning death. When you do this, your priorities shift. The small annoyances don't feel worth losing your temper over. The endless race for material things feels less urgent, and the time you have left becomes more precious because you realize it's finite. Another step is to build habits of consistent worship, even if they seem small. The Prophet taught us that the most beloved deeds to Allah are the ones done regularly, even if they are small. This is a psychological truth. It's not the occasional bursts of effort that transform you. It's the daily actions that become part of who you are. A few pages of Quran daily, a portion of charity every month, extra prayers once a day, these build your spiritual muscle memory, so that even when life gets busy, you stay connected to Allah. Then there's the importance of seeking forgiveness constantly. Every single one of us will slip, but the difference between a believer who grows and one who drifts away is whether they turn back quickly. Saying **** sincerely throughout the day not only wipes away sins, but also softens the heart. And a soft heart is much easier to guide toward the Akhirah than one that's become hardened by negligence. Another key is surrounding yourself with people who remind you of Allah. The Quran warns us about the regret of those who will say on the Day of Judgment, **if only I had not taken so and so as a friend, **, your environment shapes your direction more than you realize. If your circle is constantly chasing Dunya, mocking religious effort, or distracting you from worship, it's like trying to walk toward Jannah while your friends are pulling you toward a cliff. Choose companions who lift you when your faith dips, who celebrate your acts of worship, who encourage you to give, to learn, to grow, and we can't forget serving others. The Prophet said, **The most beloved of people to Allah are those who are most beneficial to others. Helping someone in need, even in small ways, shifts the focus from self-centered living to Akhirah-centered living. Because every act of service done for Allah's sake is an investment that waits for you beyond this world. Finally, keep renewing your intention. We live in a world where it's easy for good actions to get mixed with ego, showing off, or worldly goals. Before you do anything, whether it's working, studying, even posting online, ask yourself, if I died right after this, would I be happy presenting this to Allah? That single question can purify your actions and keep your heart directed toward the eternal. At the end of the day, staying focused on the Akhirah is not about withdrawing from life, it's about living fully, but with the right destination in mind. The Dunya is like a road trip. Enjoy the scenery, rest when you need to, but don't mistake the roadside cafe for your final home. And remember this: every single step you take today is either moving you closer to Jannah or closer to Jahannam. You choose the direction, one decision at a time.